We're really excited to be here tonight. I was so happy that we were able to get in touch with you all and get on the agenda for this evening. My name is Sarah Houghton. I'm with 360. I'm a land use consultant, and I'm here with Greg Comenor from Daylight Community Development to share our background, the project's background, and answer some questions and then receive feedback. There's obviously been a lot of discussion tonight already, which was informative, but we'd like to present the project to you so that you have some correct information. And Greg has a really excellent presentation that he is going to screen share and walk you through some details, and then we'd be happy to take some questions.
Let's see if I can get you over to a screen share here. Go ahead.
Thank you.
Yeah, Johnny, am I able to screen share?
You should be able to at this point. That's mine. Go ahead. Have you got yours up?
No, it still says disabled, but
All right. Let me get rid of mine and see if I can get yours up on the screen, sir. Sorry about that. My
no worries. While we wait, there's a dog at my feet. She may bark. I apologize in advance if it happens.
Very good. See if you've got it now.
All right, now we're good. Okay. Thank you, Sarah.
We got it.
Can everyone see the screen?
We're good.
Yes. Great. And I think that was a really helpful discussion with the senior lead. We look forward to reaching out as well and discussing safety concerns. You know, we heard at the neighborhood council Plum Committee meeting last week of safety concerns at Del Valle. We know there are RVs parked out in front of the site. So we know there are things we can do, and we hope that our project will help from a safety perspective moving forward. So this is the same presentation as last week. I assume there's probably some overlap, but we're here to introduce the project, introduce ourselves, as well as provide information on our target population, our income targeting, and how this is very different from 818 and the extended stay. This is not temporary housing for folks coming off the street. This is not that primary. So just wanted to start there. So my name is Greg Comenor. I'm a partner at Daylight Community Development. My two business partners, Aaron and Sonia, are here somewhere as well. We are the lead developer on the project, which we'll get into, and we work with a lot of great firms and partners as part of all of our projects. I'll do a little overview on us, and then we'll get into the project. We're working on this specific development with Affordable Housing Access. They're our nonprofit partner. They own, operate, and manage over 10,000 affordable and workforce housing units across the Western United States. 360, Sarah mentioned, is a land use consulting firm that we've used on a lot of our projects. FSY Architects is the architect, and we'll be gathering feedback here, trying to understand from a design perspective things we can do to try and improve the project. We got a lot of great feedback last week that we're already trying to incorporate. And then Aperto Property Management, our property management firm that manages properties and affordable and workforce housing developments, very similar to this one. Several in the San Fernando Valley of this size and population that operate great. Just a little bit on us. Aaron, Sonia, myself, we're all Angelinos. Aaron and I both grew up here, and Sonia's been living here for about 10 years, so we're happy to have her. You know, I grew up in the Valley. Both my parents live in the Valley. My dad's in Sherman Oaks. My mom's in Oxnard now. I played in Encino Little League. I took my SATs at Taft. So we have a real vested interest in the long-term success of the San Fernando Valley. We started this business about 4 years ago to build affordable and workforce housing across Los Angeles. We have 6 projects in construction, 5 projects, one just finished. We have 5 projects in construction, over 300 units currently in construction, and doing the best we can to create a more equitable Los Angeles. We work with a lot of great partners, as you can see. We're really good at what we do, but we know that, we have partners that are subject matter experts like Sarah and her team at 360. So we're humble about what we know and what we don't know, and we're always striving to create a better product. These are some of our projects that are currently in our pipeline, 3 of which are in the San Fernando Valley. Oatsy's Place is an affordable housing project in Lake Balboa. NoHo 50/50, affordable housing in North Hollywood. And then Van Owen Apartments, another affordable housing project in CD2 as well. So these are some of our existing portfolio. Won't spend too much time here. We all know there's obviously a large shortage of affordable housing. I have a lot of friends from high school here in the Valley that are being priced out that just can't live here, and it's don't have to spend much time here. We all know it, and we're trying organizationally to do our best to create housing options to make Los Angeles a sustainable place for our residents to live. Rents, constantly increasing. The average rent in LA County is approximately $2,300, which is actually the rent that a lot of our units are actually charging. So we'll get into sort of the rents, the incomes, the AMIs, the area median incomes that would be a part of this project. So I want to spend a lot of time here because I think there's been some misunderstandings about what the target population is for this project and what Woodlake Family Apartments really is. The vast majority of this project, 75% of the building, are for working families that earn between $40,000 and $100,000 a year, right? These are working families that have a lease, just like any other apartment building. We are just rent capped, right? There are limits of how much we can charge, and there are limits of how much a household can make. These are folks that live in our community that are being priced out, right? These are folks that work in Warner Center. These are healthcare workers. These are teachers. These are firefighters. These are folks that making anywhere between $40,000 and $100,000 a year. In addition, we have 25 supportive housing units. Those are typically an older population. Our service provider, the People Concern, the average age of someone coming into this unit is 55 years old. They typically have a health concern and need a little bit more assistance. A lot of times they've been falling on hard times. There's been a medical bill that either has made them at risk of homelessness, or unfortunately is unhoused, right? But this isn't the person that has an encampment on the sidewalk, right? Typically. So just to summarize, and I apologize, there's a dog moving behind me. The 75% of the building is a workforce housing unit type for folks earning between $40,000 and $100,000 annually. Most of these are large family units, so 2 and 3 bedroom units for families who are priced out of this community that work and operate in this community, and then 25 supportive housing units of folks earning up to $25,000 a year. This is the site, in case everyone is not sure. This is the Woodlake exit at the 101. We actually got some really great feedback from the neighborhood council meeting about how to make this a safer element. And we are taking some of that feedback back to CD3. So that was a really helpful exercise. And if we can do our part and be a community partner, try and make this a safer on and off ramp, it's something we definitely are vested in and want to do. And also really helpful feedback on that pedestrian bridge as well. So, I mean, this kind of plays into what we've heard about on this call as the existing site condition. I know that there was a shooting here in the last year. Every time I've driven past this site, there's either RVs parked out on Del Valle or in front of the property, or big truck beds as well. Definitely not the safest condition. And it's something that, here, let me just get this dog out of here 1 sec.
I'm going to chime in while Greg stepped away. So I just want to say that part of this site, there's a big slope up from Ventura Boulevard up toward Del Valle. But if you saw on the aerial that Greg had up previously, the property itself doesn't actually extend to the cul-de-sac, but stop short of that, just so everyone's aware of the extents.
Thank you for that clarification, Sarah. So, we're hopeful that this new project that has eyes on the street, security cameras, on-site property management, folks that are living and working out of this property every day creates a much safer element along both Del Valle and Ventura Boulevard. And, working with the senior lead officer is something we are really focused on and making it a much safer condition than it currently is. Sarah can speak about this much better than I can, but essentially the site is zoned C1 a mixed use zone. We are the outline here in blue. Once again, Sarah also much smarter than me on this, but we are providing 100 units with 21 units set aside for 50% AMI, 25 supportive housing units as we talked about, an FAR of 3-to-1. We actually have a requirement for 85 stalls. We're providing 100, and our team is actually looking at ways to increase that parking count. We actually had a design meeting on that today. That was something that was discussed at the meeting last week. Here's the current rendering that's still in process. It's a 5-story building at all points, given the slope. Trying to activate Ventura Boulevard here with glazing and a community amenity space on the first floor. These are actually 2-story townhomes along. You think of sort of a brownstone feel along Ventura Boulevard, and then we've tried to step back the building and the massing towards the freeway as best we can. We've taken some design feedback from the neighborhood council meeting last week. We're excited to hear people's thoughts this week, still gather feedback as we work through the design of the building. Site plan from above here, this kind of outlines what Sarah was talking about in terms of what the site is in relation to the larger parcel. And then here's the first and second floor plan. As you can see, parking ingress and egress is off of the western side of the building, which slopes up to the second floor. And then there's also a ramp up to the third floor. This is the fourth floor plan that has 2 courtyards. We have a community room, a kids play area, a rear yard, a dog run, and a big rear area here that we will plant aggressively. And then here is a site condition from the street that we expect from the sidewalk. Here are 2 quick views from the freeway that we anticipate. That's that. And we're to end the presentation and to start gathering feedback. We're here to listen. At the end of the day, we want to be a good neighbor. We really want to be a part of this community. I'm in the Valley basically every week. This is a community that matters to us. So we want to listen. We want to gather input and feedback and make this the best possible project for this community. So with that, I'm going to shut up and start.
Greg, can you put the visuals of the building back up so that people can reference them? Thank you.
Is that helpful?
Yeah.
Okay. Johnny, I think you're on mute.
You're muted, John.
Thank you. Andrew, you're unmuted. I was not. You go ahead and talk.
Thank you. 2-part quick question. I'll ask the 2 and then you can answer. Who is providing the subsidy and for how many residents?
So this is not a subsidized building, right? So, we do not have a loan from the city. We do not have any subsidy provided from the city. We go after state funding in order to build this project. From an operational standpoint, we're collecting rent like any other apartment building. It's just rent restricted, right? So in a market rate project, you can charge $4,000 for a 2-bedroom unit, right? In downtown LA, we are just capped at how much we can charge and the income that a household can make in order to live there.
Dennis DiBiase, one of our board members and an architect, has got a question. Go ahead, Dennis.
Yeah, sure thing. Thank you. I got a few questions, and some of them revolve around the parking. The 3-bedroom units, the 2-bedroom units, you know, there's one thing about it being a family. It's another thing if you start bringing roommates in and, you know, 3 people are in, you know, a 3-bedroom, and concern is all of a sudden there's 3 cars, right? And even a family with 2 cars. The other issue regarding parking is if you've only got 100 parking spaces, how many employees do you have on site? And then who doesn't get a parking space? And if they don't get a parking space, they don't have a car, right? So if they don't have a car, how do they go grocery shopping? How do they pick up their sundry items? How do they do these things? Okay, I know I see 83 bicycle parking spaces, right? But you're not going to be able to go down and pick up your groceries very easily on a bicycle.
Yeah, how do you handle that?
So I'd like,
2 per. I mean, two per. You're never gonna have enough parking spaces. They want us to get out of our car.
can I finish, please? Thank you. Yeah. Okay. And another thing I'd like to see is a little bit more detail on the first floor along the street. I was one of the initiators of Reimagine Ventura Boulevard, and I'm also on the plan review board for Ventura Boulevard. So I have a concern about activating the street or it becoming a dead zone, and I'd like to hear what you have going on right at the street level. That's it.
Thanks, Dennis. Just from the team standpoint, would you like me to address each question as they come up? I assume so, but just
Yeah,
wanted
sure,
to.
go ahead, please.
Okay, so from a roommate standpoint, these are single families, single household. There are no roommates in this type of building because it's a household income determined program, right? So the low income housing tax credit program created under Reagan, everything is based on household median income. So you can't mix households. From a parking standpoint,
Hold on, Greg, on that point, are you going to have something in the leases that restrict that from going on?
Yeah,
Because
even subletting, right?
I mean, otherwise you're going to be able to, I mean, you just have somebody there and all of a sudden somebody else is staying with them rather than an extended period of time. It's called a roommate that's paying them rent, but nobody tells you about it. And you go, well, it's my cousin from Iowa. How are you going to handle that?
So we have annual income certifications that are absolutely mandated by the state. We are incentivized in order to ensure that everything is kosher and by the book. Just like any other apartment building, everyone signs a lease. If that lease is broken, we have the ability to evict and ensure that tenant is no longer living there. And this is a program that we have annual income certifications that we have.
All right, I interrupted you. Go ahead. I'm back on topic. I interrupted you.
In terms of parking, we have one on-site property manager that will live on-site every day, that lives there. And then we have a full-time maintenance person as well. And then we have 2 case managers is a mandate of the state program. I think of it as like both case managers for the PFH units, but also what I like to think of as more like concierge services for the family units. We are looking at trying to increase that parking count, creating more compact stalls and trying to find ways to increase that parking count. So because we heard that feedback last week. Sarah, you're probably better than I am to speak about Reimagine Ventura, but that is something we were looking at today. I know we're not in the current zone,
Right.
but it's something that we want to emulate and see if we can, if we can incorporate some of those design elements.
Yeah, Dennis, so as you're aware, we're, I believe 1 block or 2 to the west of the end of where the road work per se, that constriction and the angled parking and the site improvements have already started in some areas. And so we did talk about at the last meeting, could there be elements that we can pick up in front of our building and in front of our streetscape that would reflect it, but obviously it's discontinuous to where Reimagine itself occurs. And I appreciate your question about the ground floor activation and dead zone. And this, Greg just touched on a little bit, it's not highlighted in our renderings right now, but at the ground floor, there will be the more active services that are offered in this building, which will include some of the services for some of the residents, and then also community spaces where other activities can occur, as well as the building lobby. But to your point, yes, we would like to get in there and provide a little more detail to that at a pedestrian scale for sure. So that is definitely on the list.
Can I just follow up one thing, John?
Yes.
Of course, Dennis, go ahead.
Yeah, thanks. The first floor, when I saw the plans last week at the Plum meeting, the neighborhood council meeting, it looked like you had some of your back of house. I know the transformer's got to be out there. Okay, I do it for a living, but this stuff for a living. But there's also other back of house elements there that really could be somewhere else, it seems, and they're right out at the street. It's not a continuous, community room kind of thing along the street. So the other thing is, the community rooms, they don't relate to the street necessarily. They're good. They're more open windows and things like that, but they're not really opening to the street. They don't, activate or anything. It's good that they're down there. But anyway, so I guess the main attack, of the plan would be to try to pull any back of house stuff away from that street.
Okay.
As a suggestion.
Yeah.
Question
Super
to both
helpful.
of you,
Thank you,
really,
Dennis.
kind of following up on that, Dennis. This is, I think, the criticism we hear from a lot of people. This is a done deal. There's not much we can do about it because it's being done pretty much by matter of right. How open are you to taking the input from the community on some redesigning of things and things being moved around, or some of the articulations or some of the aesthetics and what have you? Where are you in that particular process, and how is that being conducted?
So John, that's why we're here, right? We're here to gather that feedback. I think that back of house comment is super helpful. There are things we can do. There are things that we're limited by. But this is the type of, we're at the current design phase where we are able to solicit feedback.
I guess we're a little bit gun shy because of what went on with Westfield back when they were working on the village itself. They had people that came out with it, spent years coming out with it, going back and forth on stuff, and then just did what they wanted to do until we sued them. So it's a question of hearing you saying it, but not having worked with you before, and finding that what you're going to be doing. I think you'll go a long way that the next presentation you've got, that if you're incorporating some of the things you might have heard in some of your designs, rather than saying, we're listening, might be helpful to it. I see we got a question from Leah Osborne. You're unmuted. You go ahead with your question. Leah?
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Go ahead, Leah.
Okay. The issue about the groceries was not addressed again. And also I feel, again, the car parking, there's no decent transportation there. I live nearby. I'm in Woodland Hills, and there's no decent. Where are these people? How are they going to get to work? Where are they going to work? And they're not going to walk to work. I can tell you that. I think a lot of these issues haven't been addressed. And by the way, you say you're going to redesign the parking. I have been in parking lots that are primarily for compact cars. Hey, there's not that many compact cars out there anymore. So I don't know how you're going to redesign the parking. And again, you're not going to have 100 apartments and 100 cars. It's going to be much more than that. Okay, that's.
Thanks, Leah.
So,
So we just got this feedback last week. We've been advised by property management that the parking is sufficient. I mean, we're studying to see how we can increase that parking. And John, to your point earlier, we definitely are hoping to come back, see what we can update in the plans, and present that to the group here. So that's why we're here to listen.
I got you. We got another question from looks like it's Afra. You can go ahead and unmute yourself, Afra. Go ahead. Afra, got a question? He's having some difficulty, I think, unmuting at that point. Let's see if that happens. Well, okay, we'll come back. We have another question here. Ed Reynolds, go ahead.
Yeah, I walk that area 3 or 4 times a week, and there's no grocery stores within miles of there. I think you got to take that into consideration, and it's not even bicycle area to go to a grocery store. 7-Eleven and is about the closest outlet to that intersection. And my friends that live in that area, they go across the freeway into the Mulholland Shopping Center,
El
which is
Camino.
on the other side, El Camino. Yeah. And it's just, have you taken that into consideration? Because these people are going to be on an island. It's the way it looks like to me.
So I'd like to address that. So I lived in the area for 5 years and in Woodland Hills for 10 years. I actually grocery shop at that Smart and Final there. I use the public library there. There's 2 other commercial businesses that are neighborhood serving businesses in that area. I know it feels kind of dead on that end of Ventura. It gets a little, wide. And again, this goes to the Reimagine Ventura plan, which is designed for slowing traffic and creating pedestrian traffic. So slowing vehicular traffic and creating a little more activity. So I think you'll see kind of a synergy between development there with the vision plan. And there are resources. I know they're not for everyone. I also sometimes might prefer a Trader Joe's to the Smart and Final. And so I think, there are some resources there. El Camino is a good one around the corner as well. It is sometimes in Los Angeles hard to drag a lot of groceries from far away, but I think there are ways around that. And I think there are resources in this area.
Scott Silverstein, you're unmuted. Go ahead with your question, Scott.
Thanks, Johnny. I'll be as brief as I can, considering Dennis pretty much stepped all over what I had to say. So
I have a tendency to do that, Scott.
I'd like to thank the WHO for granting the citizens of Woodland Hills a reasonable and adequate time to speak, thus allowing for civil discourse, which is a tenet of democracy. Unfortunately, certain elected officials within a local advisory board find it more important to limit the time for speakers so their members can go to sleep, thus foregoing the responsibilities as elected citizens. I am wholeheartedly in favor of more affordable housing, including this project. A robust program of new construction must be smartly and cautiously initiated in the city of LA. My prior campaign was centered around affordable housing, but with one caveat: it should not be at the life-altering detriment of others. Each and every project should be reviewed and permitted only after it is transformed into the best it could be. Unfortunately, this city is inundated with merchant builders. Merchant builders are those that build with the intent of selling the project soon after or even before completion. These builders have absolutely no respect for those that live in the area. They build it cheap, maximize profits, and leave, leaving the project's problems to the local residents. Whether this builder is indeed a merchant builder is yet to be seen, but the developer told me they only own about 350 units that are still under construction. It didn't seem like that slideshow reflected that. We can't count on the neighborhood or city electeds to provide any protection or support for its constituents, particularly egregious legislation by our local state officials put us in this unfortunate predicament. I appreciate the developer's attempt to redesign the project, but I believe that the 8-story facade is out of character. Dennis also spoke about the other issues, such as the retail component. Maybe that could provide the food that the residents will be needing in that area. I urge the WHO to pressure the builder to provide additional parking, not what the city bureaucrats let them have. We've seen in Warner Center time and time again that less than 1 car per unit or 85 spaces for 100 units is not feasible. The bowling alley will be the unfortunate recipient of the overflow parking, which will unfairly hurt their business. Lastly, this project, I'll skip the list. Thanks to Dennis. But anyway, hey, thank you very much, Johnny.
You got it. Well, Scott, I think that the points you're raising on that are important. That the parking is probably going to be the biggest Achilles heel for you, because if the project goes to the present parking on that, the people will be all over the streets out there. We're not at the stage yet of getting people out of their cars. And while you're going to be, the project is not going to be completed, you figure 2 to 3 years at least at this point, we're still not going to be out of our cars. I don't think by that point in time. That's going to take generations for us to do that.
Hey, John.
So, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, the Reimagine project, one of the things we were trying to do was create parking spaces for the businesses along Ventura Boulevard.
Exactly.
The last thing we want to do is add to the parking problem by all of a sudden the employees of a new business coming in and taking up the parking spaces.
Yeah, and that's,
Okay, after we work so hard to create those parking spaces along Ventura Boulevard.
yeah, and that's sort of that's been a project been in the works for years at that point.
Yeah.
And that's listen, we start with a healthy skepticism of what's going on as far as the development is concerned. Our position with the homeowners has always been, we're not against development, we're against irresponsible development. Anything that's going to be an upgrade to the community is fine. When it starts creating other problems in the community, then it's a difficulty. Like, for example, with the shopping issue, if you were putting some kind of a nice place down below that was going to be able to put in something as far as a deli or some other, not deli, but some kind of a small shopping area that might be there, something that's going to be able to fulfill the needs of the community at that point. And yes, things may grow up around you, but right now they're not there. So, how do you respond to what Scott has to say, and what are you going to do? How are you going to make this a better project than what it is presently?
Sure. So Scott, to start from an ownership perspective, the way the low-income housing tax credit program operates, we are long-term owners. So we will own this project at least 15 years of operation. Our goal is to own it over the long term. All of our projects are 5 of our 6 projects are in construction. We will also own those over the long term because of the way the low-income housing tax credit program works. So we're here to stay. We are not turning this over to any other entity. Unfortunately, you're going to be dealing with me. From a retail perspective, that's we did hear that feedback last week. It's difficult in it, just being perfectly honest, it is difficult under this program to build mixed use because it's a housing program. It doesn't fund retail. It's not something that we have thought about in the past. Our hope is that we have, income earners from, majority of from 70 to 40 to 100,000, but a lot of the larger family units are 70 to 100,000. These are people that can spend. These are folks that have spending power, and hopefully attracts businesses along that Reimagine LA corridor. So other responses, parking, we obviously hear you, and are just, we're just starting that study. So
I think you should recognize you're getting supplemented on this from governmental money to be able to put this project up for housing, correct?
We get funding through the state's low-income housing tax credit program.
I got you. So you're taking taxpayer money to bring something into our community, and there's no way that you should be offended by the stuff that we're looking at and the things we want to have. I mean, it's taxpayer money, first of all, and the intent is to get some decent housing that's around that everybody thinks is necessary. We still are very niffed about what the state is doing as far as trying to take away that local control away from us, because we've done stuff with the 2035 specific plan, for example, in Warner Center, and we watch our community rather closely. Other ones are not as responsive, and the state has come in and said, we want you guys to do cookie cutters throughout the entire state of what's going to go on. We're not particularly happy about that. So you're going to get some pushback about the fact that this is, quote, coming under some of that legislation that we didn't ask for, that our representatives didn't really do anything to protect us from. And again, we're looking to see what's going to be the best thing that's here, not the cheapest, not the thing that's going to be, let's see whether or not we don't have to articulate everything. Let's just do a flat wall all the way across because it's cheaper to build it that way. What's going to be the best that's going to be able to be done to have something that's going to be an upgrade for the community. Because as you place something there's not a whole lot that's there. As you begin to put something nice that's there, you're going to attract other nice. And that other nice is going to be good. Good for you and good for the community too. So we want nice there, okay? We want as nice as what it could possibly be.
Completely agree.
Heath, you're unmuted. Go ahead, Heath, you got a question.
Thanks very much. I'm going to build on what Scott and Dennis talked about earlier. I also agree that having affordable housing in the community is a tremendous asset that we want to have. So I hope that we can work with you to build a project that will serve the community. And you mentioned a couple of things that I want to go back and kind of flush out the details on. And then I want to ask you some broader questions. You mentioned that you're going to have the AHA staff there to help the residents and so forth, and that's great. Are they going to be living on site, or are they going to be people that come, and are they there 5 days a week, 7 days a week? And what type of parking are they going to have? And again, with the affordable housing component of it, which is fine, it's workforce. And I asked the people in the community to think back, how many of you make $100,000 a year, or how long did it take you till your family made that kind of income? So having this kind of housing is essential to having a healthy community. But with people that are working and you've got 2 and 3 bedroom units, the idea of having 1 parking space per unit, and it's also having to serve visitors and the professional staff and so forth, is not going to work. So practically speaking, how can we get more parking? And you mentioned in your presentation that you will not be buying the property all the way up to Del Valle Street. And I'm curious how many feet of depth is going to be between your property line and Del Valle? And are you talking to the landowner there, and are you working with the council office to acquire that property? And perhaps if you did, you could get the additional units you need to have the project pencil out and still address some of the issues. But if you had parking and access there and could connect with that pedestrian bridge, for example, to get people over the freeway so they could walk to the Mulholland Shopping Center without taking their lives in their hands, going over the very congested and confusing overpass over the freeway at Mulholland, would make the project much better. And are you going to have assigned spots, or it's just the first 100 people to make it home each night, kind of like the old Flintstones TV show where Barney and Fred had to run fast to get home to get the parking spot? So how is the parking going to be assigned? Please also touch on the solar or the EV power that you mentioned with the neighborhood council. And I want to also ask you, have you also looked at the property that's up at the top of Chalk Hill for building this type of project that are bigger? It's a bigger plot of land, and if the pricing is such that they can put public storage up there, that I don't think is what Dennis imagined Ventura Boulevard to be, and has been working on so hard all these years. The same for Scott and the others that are on the design review board and so forth. So, you know, where else can you put projects like this? And, you know, to me, again, like it's been touched on, it's how do you solve the parking problems? And I'll stop there, and I gave you lots of little things to speak to. Thank you.
I have to interrupt just for a second, John. I have to leave. I'm in my office, and the burglar alarm goes off at 9 o'clock.
Okay,
so
Dennis.
I'm out of here.
Go
Sorry.
ahead for that.
I want to hear more. I'll listen on the phone.
You can listen on the phone. This is also being recorded, and this will be up on our website probably, hopefully a few days. I know Ari is doing that as well. Dennis, thank you for your comments on that. Dennis is one of our
thank you guys, all of you.
board members, and is one of our first vice presidents, along with Marty Lipkin, who's also one of our first vice presidents. So go ahead with your response to Heath's stuff on that, Greg.
So Heath, to start, we'll have two different service providers on the project. AHA is actually our nonprofit development partner, but we have both Life Steps, which provides services to the general affordable units. They put on health and wellness classes. They help gather your Amazon packages, all that stuff. They're there between 9 to 5 Monday through Friday. And then the People Concern, which provides case management services for the 25 supportive housing units, they're also there 9 to 5 Monday through Friday. So my expectation, and I'm not sure on the assigned spots, that's something that we need to reach out to our property management and ask about that. I do not know the answer to that, so I appreciate that question. My expectation is for those folks that are operating their 9 to 5, they'll take those spots where folks have left to go to work, right? they'll recycle those spots. I do not know whether it's assigned or not. So I will get back to you on that.
Greg, it would almost seem on the parking that you should only be able to rent a spot if someone comes in to rent a spot. How many cars do you have? Got 2. Okay, we got some spots available. You can have the 2 spots that are A and B. But somebody else now comes in, that was the last 2 spots you got. Somebody else comes in and wants to rent, but they've got a car. I would assume you got to turn them down and say no, and find somebody else that doesn't have a car so they can come in. Because you can't, if you got 80 parking spaces, you can't have 120 people with cars. It's just not going to work.
I'm not sure if that's if we're legally allowed to do that, but it's something that we need to ask our property management firm.
I think you should need to find out if you can, because you're gonna have to figure out some way of being able to work this thing. It's going to be a problem otherwise, because otherwise your facility becomes almost a nuisance to the community, and that gets us lawyers then really excited, because we hear the word nuisance and we start going, oh, that's interesting. So you got to find some way to be able to solve these problems on it. Go ahead and finish with the comment to it. Marty will come to you for the next question.
No, go to Lee and Kurt.
Okay, I can do that.
Oh, do you want me to answer those other?
Yeah, please go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah. So the solar and the EV, we have multiple EV stations, both as code, but also there are incentives now in order, and we want to make as EV friendly as humanly possible. I don't know the exact count offhand, but multiple EV spots. And then I do not know the full distance between the end of our property line and the Delville cul-de-sac. Sarah, hand up.
Yeah, I looked at it. So we use a zoning website. I was just looking at it. The cul-de-sac, does what a cul-de-sac does, which is there's a circle which cuts toward the project site. So at the narrowest portion, it's only 30 feet. And then it flares back out. The parcel that is to the south of us, adjacent or off of Delval, it's kind of, there's not a lot of use to it. And we've kind of chewed on that conceptually. Is there a reason to incorporate it in the project? How would it be used by the community? What are some pros and cons to that? And so it certainly has been a conceptual design question we've kicked around internally as well as with the community. And so something we still talk about, but it is kind of the piece itself is a very strange shape.
And it's an R1 zone. One thing that we talked about in the meeting last week, and I'd be curious for people's input, is that there was conflicting guidance on whether an easement and an access should exist between our property and the cul-de-sac. Some folks said it'd be great to be able to get back there, and some folks says that's a horrible idea. So I'd be curious for the folks on this call whether that is a good or a bad thing, because we're gathering that feedback. And then I don't know where Chalk Hill is.
So yeah, we haven't looked at that. Is this accurate? It's to the east of Woodland Hills Academy, and there was an elder.
Basically, where Target is at, it's a little bit to the west of Target in Ventura Blvd.
And so you're referring to the new
Target. I'm sorry. Yes, sorry, east of Target.
Where it kind of the site slopes up, and there's a new storage project proposed on Ventura Boulevard there. So I think that's a dual zone site. There's a P zone and a C zone. You can't build in a P zone, that kind of thing.
Got it. Marty, you're up on your question.
What happened to the other? There were about three others.
They dropped off. You're up. You're up.
Yeah, okay.
You scared them.
Yeah, let's talk about a number of things, and I know I had to rush through it at the previous meeting. Obviously, parking is a huge concern. I also think that the inflow and outflow from this structure could be a problem with the traffic that's trying to access the 101 or exit from the 101 in addition. And you guys need to work that out. That's really going to be a major issue in that section of town. I want to switch to the architecture again. I brought this up before very quickly. I've re-looked at it. I have all of the drawings and everything else. It's still very massive. It's extraordinarily heavy. for that area. It's much bigger than any other building, Jesus, for miles around, frankly. And I'm a little troubled by it. It just seems very brutalist. And I wish Dennis was here. He could help me out on the terminology. But is there any way that you guys can lighten that up? It just looks, it's bulky, it's heavy, it's whatever, and it's not particularly attractive from either the east or west. And from what I can tell in the not well executed views from the freeway, facing the freeway, there just is not enough architectural interest to make this a, you know, I'm not looking for Frank Gehry. Okay, I've worked in 2 Frank Gehry buildings, so I understand the excesses sometimes in architecture, but I think there's a lack of real distinctiveness. If we're going to have it and it's going to be this big, it needs to be more likable. This is not a likable architecturally building. And I'd like to see that addressed. I don't have solutions. I mean, Dennis could probably give you solutions. I can't. But I do have enough experience in the architectural world to know what I think people would, you know, enjoy. I'm not asking for a 60-foot pair of binoculars, okay? Been there, done that. But I don't want to, I just, right now, I'd have to grade it on as a C-, basically architecturally, and I don't think it's bringing a lot to the community. You know, if it's going to go up and it's going to be big, and I know it is because there are all these requirements, then I'd like people to say, you know, geez, I kind of wish I lived there. That looks really cool. That's neat. And I don't have that feeling right now. I feel like it's almost a bunker, or I think I used the term, it looks like a prison. And I have looked at it again and studied it closely, and think that's partially it. I'd also like to see, and this was something that you guys weren't part and parcel to, there was some post plum discussion about how people were kind of wishing there was something on the ground floor that would activate Ventura Boulevard. That whole area of Ventura Boulevard is not the most pedestrian friendly, or providing any kind of the services that a lot of the people that would be living in this site would actually want to utilize. I mean, there's a bunch of nail care places and some other things, but there's not a lot of restaurants. I know that takes a lot of space, but even a coffee shop or something else might help activate the Ventura. As Dennis pointed out, you know, you have all that glass in front and there's nothing really to draw people into it or past it. Trying to think if there's anything else that I wanted to bring up.
While you're looking at that for a moment, if I may, the representative from the mayor's office, Aaron Seinfeld, is online and has to be getting off at this point. Aaron, if you're able to unmute, I'd like for you at least to introduce yourself and let people know that you're here.
Thanks,
Aaron,
John. Thanks. Can you hear me?
Yes, you can. Go ahead.
Thanks for letting me quickly jump in. I am trying to escape a crying baby, so I'm going to be trying to be very quick.
Well, we're pleased that you've been listening for the evening, so know that the mayor's office has been listening to us all night. So.
Yeah, I just wanted to say hi to everyone, and it was great to be able to listen to Senior Lead Officer Dincy, and then this project. I just wanted to make sure everyone knew we were in the room, so to speak. I'm the West Valley area rep, and I can come by another time, but I just wanted everyone to know, to say hi, wish everyone a good night. And I look forward to hopefully getting to see you all soon.
Well, also,
and thanks for sharing, John.
Okay, and so since we've got you on the line too, get the mayor out here to us. We'd like to have the mayor come out and speak with us and spend some time with her and have her field some of our questions. Not just those 1-minute questions she might get from other locations. So see if you can do something to arrange some of that, because the mayors never get out here, especially in the West Valley. We deeply appreciate that.
Well, this mayor has been a couple times, so let's talk to see how we can do that down the line.
All right, I like it.
Um,
Let's do. But anyway,
okay.
thank you so much for being here, and we will talk again for sure. Have a blessed
Have a
night.
good night, everyone. Bye.
All right,
John,
Greg,
can
yeah,
I, can I
Greg,
just,
yeah,
can I,
Greg, Marty, finish up. Thank
let me,
you.
well, I actually did finish up. I mean, if there's any response, I'm not expecting one because you guys have to discuss it. But I just want to remind the folks that are online with us, and there's a number of them, that you're not going to have this much of an opportunity to speak your mind and ask questions and let these folks know. They've been very, very cooperative with the community in listening, and I think they are earnestly interested in making this the best project that they can. So if you have a question, there's not a 1 minute time limit. Put your hand up and we will get to it.
Kirk, you've got your hand up. You're unmuted if you want to go ahead and talk. Go ahead and mute yourself.
You talking about me?
Yes, sir. You got it. Go, you're live.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'm coming in really not knowing a lot. I thought this was another project that you guys were doing. And so now I didn't realize I kind of have a sense of where this project is. It's over by the bowling alley. Is that correct?
Yes, correct.
So, you know, that area is kind of a dead zone over there. Not a lot going on. I thought it was probably ripe for development. And I guess my opinion, I kind of go with the last caller. I think it's gonna feel like it's gonna stick out like a sore thumb in that whole area. Not that anything is beautiful over in that spot, but it is such a heavy building, and you're like I'm thinking to myself, and like I said, I only saw it tonight. And I'm thinking to myself, well, what would go next? You know, and it almost seemed like, well, if you go exactly the opposite of that, then it'll definitely stick out, or you have to stay with the same. And if what I heard you say earlier about it being a brownstone feel, which I lived in New York and I lived on the Upper West Side, so I see kind of what you're doing there. But to me, it just looks like a real modern I can see kind of the brownstone in it, but I don't see a brownstone style units going over in that spot. That doesn't feel like LA to me. So that's just a real simple gut reaction that it feels like it's going to stick out like a sore thumb. And I'm not sure what the concept of what would go next in that area, if that area wants to develop into a more pedestrian friendly area. Thank you.
Greg, recognize that you're going to be attracting people there by what you build. I mean, you've got something that really looks basically 8 stories tall because of the slope up, if you will. If you take it off of the road area, you're looking at 8 stories that's there. You may want to take a look at, I don't know how it works out and pencils out for you economically, to cut it down to where that, even though it's up on top of the hill, you don't do a full number of stories up there. So you don't have such a huge thing that's overlooking everybody at that location. I think it's going to be overwhelming, very frankly, especially with there not being anything around it at this point. If there were some other ones that were much larger that were around it, that might be a different story. But again, recognize that you're going to bring in other people into that location, and you want to try to make sure it's an upgrade, that they're going to want to match you and do better than what you're doing. Melanie, you've got the floor. If you unmute, you go ahead.
Yeah, hi, this is actually Melina's husband, Steve. So
okay, Steve,
that's okay. I wanted to dip in though real fast. I literally live less than a half mile from Bowlero Bowl. So I'm driving east on Ventura Boulevard all the time. And that area just, beyond where the project is being realized here is just, I hate to say it, it's just dumpy. And as many people have stated, it's not very walkable. So the only thing I would like to input, having lived here and owned a home for 25 years in a low density area, is if you're going to put that many units in there, please try to make it beautiful. I know this is not the Champs-Élysées. However, we really just need to beautify any new development that we have coming into that area, particularly since we who live in the Walnut Acres area drive by it all the time, and we have to live with whatever visual comes up. So my only input is, please, if you're going to do this, as everyone has said, please make it look aesthetically pleasing, so it's inviting rather than a turnoff to the neighbors around you. Thank you.
I appreciate that, Steve, and Marty as well. We still haven't had a design meeting since last week's neighborhood council meeting. We have a design meeting tomorrow. We're gathering some of this feedback, and we want to build something beautiful that attracts more positive development in the West Valley. So we take all that feedback to heart, absolutely, and want to build a project we can all be proud of.
Ed Reynolds, you got another question? Go ahead. You're on mute.
Yes. What's happened to the plans at the Bowlero? At one time, they were going to put a car dealership in there, which would be right next door to this apartment thing. And the other question I have is, has anybody reached out to the city about extending the bus line to be able to come down that area and service the people that live in that would live in that apartment?
Sarah, you take Bowlero, I'll take
Yeah. No, that's an interesting idea. So there was a dealership that was looked at the Bowlero site. There was a portion of the existing building that was deemed historic, actually. And so that development concept went away. So I don't know what the current status is, but that may have had something to do with that kind of change in plan for the site.
As an avid bowler, I'm in the Corbin Bowling League. I hope that Bowlero does not go away. In terms of Metro, and this is something that changes. We actually have had a project in Lincoln Heights where the TOC tier, the transit oriented communities tier, changes while we're in construction because bus lines come and go and they change based on demographic data and population. This is something we can advocate for, I think, with the council office and try and get them to reach out to Metro as well. I don't know exactly which line is coming down Ventura or which line is coming from Woodlake or Fallbrook, but it's something we can advocate for and see if we can try and, push to extend that bus line. That's something that we could definitely inquire with the council office on.
It's a good time for anybody else that's online that has questions. This group is obviously willing to answer a lot of them. Aaron Williams, I know you've had some questions before too on some of this. You've got some as well. Bonnie, it looks like you can unmute yourself and you've got a question as well. Bonnie.
Yes.
Go ahead, Bonnie.
I live just a few blocks from this humongous building. I'm very upset about it going up. I don't think it's good for the neighborhood. I don't know what it brings to the neighborhood. I worry about my property value. How, are people going to want to buy my house? I'm hoping to sell in a few years with that kind of building right there and the parking problems that it's going to bring. And is it going to make people park in front of my house is what I want to know, because they're going to have to park somewhere. And I can guarantee you every apartment's going to have at least 2 cars. That's my opinion.
So Bonnie, in terms of property value, I think we're hopeful that this increases property value because it beautifies what is currently a challenging location in terms of crime, in terms of it being a vacant site with tents and RVs parked out front. We're hoping to beautify that area. And there are studies that have come out with, Corporation for Supportive Housing, other organizations, that affordable housing developments actually increase property value in the area. Obviously, it's not. It depends on every site, but it's not. There's not a strict correlation that it would decrease property value. In terms of parking, I don't know, Bonnie, where you live, but I'm not sure if you have permit parking or not, or if it's close enough that it would affect your street. Obviously our goal is to park it adequately and that it would not be an issue at all. But we hear everyone's concerns on parking. Absolutely.
Elizabeth Beagle, you've got some questions. You can unmute yourself. Go ahead.
Thank you, John. My concern isn't really the parking, while it is a concern, but everybody else has addressed it. I'm a little concerned about the occupancy and the increase in potential crime rates. And secondly, the tax benefits to the builders versus what might change in the future where it will affect us negatively. And finally, the support staff and what that really means as far as the occupants. Good luck.
Elizabeth, what was your first question? My brain shut off for a second.
The potential increase in crime rate was the first
Oh,
part.
okay. So, obviously, it was really nice to hear from the senior lead officer. These are working families that are making that are earning an income and have to pay, a rent between $1,600 and $2,400 a month. Like our hope is that this would not increase crime and actually reduce crime by creating a safer element along Del Valle and Ventura Boulevard. The other questions, I'm blanking.
It was in regard to support staff, but maybe the type of supportive services that they were providing.
Yeah, so health and wellness classes, financial management classes. For the support housing units, it is case management. It's helping schedule health appointments, stuff like that. But for the general affordable units, it really is sort of, as needed, case management or as needed services and programs that exist in the community space. The low-income housing tax credit program, it covers the cost to build, right? So it's a federal program. It's not linked to property taxes or anything like that. It is a federal program of the IRS code, and is not linked to anyone's local taxes.
Greg, there's been one of the questions on it. I know a lot about this myself, but somebody want to know who is allocating the LITC and who are the investors? Can you fill that in for us at all on the project?
So we apply for funding through the California Tax Credit Allocation Committee. That's the state agency that allocates tax credits through that federal program. And there's no investment.
So as far as investors are concerned, are you self-funding this or you got some outside investors in this?
So the way traditional affordable housing works and workforce housing is that you'll get an allocation of tax credits. You'll sell it to a bank. So banks have what's called Community Reinvestment Act requirements. So B of A, wherever they take deposits, they have to invest in their community. It's a requirement.
As far as the loans are concerned.
Exactly. So the way they do that is by providing loans to small businesses or in this case, investing in affordable housing. So we take that allocation and we partner with a bank who uses that asset.
And where are you in that process? Do you already have that allocation and have you partnered?
Very, very early in that process. We're the ideation phase. We're working with the team here to work on design at this point.
What's your time frame? As we go down the line now, what's the next step and how long is it going to take you to get there? And where do you finally get to completion on it? How long are we out? How far out are we looking?
So in terms of design, I mean, I think as a lot of people who work somewhat adjacent to development, it is extremely challenging to get permits in the city of Los Angeles.
Well, you're in a different process now. The permits are going to be a little bit more streamlined for you than what they were previously.
Oh, we hope so. We surely hope so. But there's a design process that's at least a year long, which is why we're on the front end here gathering feedback. We are not sure exactly when we'd be able to pull permits, when we'd be able to be financed. But the hope is that once that happens, we would have a 2-year construction process, hopefully shorter, but we're estimating 2 years.
Will you be financed before you pull permits, or do you have to pull permits first before you get the financing?
Hopefully they're instantaneous, but we will hopefully be permitted within a 12 to 15 month process. Right.
Any more questions from the attendees? I think we're starting to get a little bit tired out now at this point in time on things at this stage. I'm not seeing any more questions to it. Any of our board members have any more questions of anything? Marty? You got anything to say?
I'm looking forward to seeing what they're going to come back with.
Yeah, I think that's the real issue. First of all, we appreciate the fact you've come out and both the neighborhood council, but also to us and taking some longer questions where we get a little more detailed responses from things that are going on. But I think if nothing else, what I would hope that you would find is that certainly this organization is willing to work with you to try to make it the best project possible. And it seems like you're trying to do the best thing. It's just a question of whether or not we think that's really what's going to go on too. Ultimately, as we get down the line and start looking at some of the details, that's when we really need to make sure that it's going to be a good project. Listen, you're doing something in an area that's very unique. The west portion of the valley here that butts up against Calabasas, we've got some of the largest property out here to be developed. We got the Rams that are coming in out here. They got 3 major, huge, large properties that they're going to be working with. We're looking for upgrades on everything. And while you're in what appears to be to a lot an outlying area, it's not going to be an outlying area for too terribly long. And I think that you're going to see a lot more of expansion on things, a lot more development on things going on too. And our skepticism, I think, is a healthy one. We look at developers coming in that say, all right, I'm putting money in, put my time and sweat in. I'm going to make money back at that point in time and don't really care that much about what the community is going to be. Let's see what I can get away with. What's the cheapest I can put in to get the most amount of my return back? That's the fight that we have to go with all the time. And we want you to put in as much as you possibly can and make it the best that we possibly can, because it's an upgrade, because you're going to attract more coming into the area. So keep that in mind. I think that we're all excited to watch and see how this is going to be developing. We appreciate your coming in at this point and spending the time with us and taking our questions. Some of them are a little bit more tested than some of the others, but we're all good in that point. So we thank you for that. And I want to remind that those that are still online with us, which we have quite a few, by the way, we not everybody's here, but we've been going through a lot for a long period. We need your membership. We are an organization that is active in the community. We try to make sure that we're going to get the best results from the developers that are coming in, and we watch them like a hawk. We continue to do so. We're not adverse to bringing litigation on if it becomes necessary with those that are just not listening. We like to hear people that are listening to the community and doing the right things for that. So please go to the WHHO.com site. Do your register there for if you're not already a membership with us. We need your membership. It helps us a great deal.